Hey everyone, my name is Elliot. I'm a fourth year architecture student and I'm going to look into 3D design. So why is it important? 3D design is kind of used in everything nowadays, from cars, TVs, race cars, you can see on the side. And everything's made in like Inventor, Rhino, something like that. It allows people to like 3D print things or make molds of them. So everything kind of starts with the 3D design before it's made into an actual object. And some of the history behind that, as we learned in class, we learned about like Sketchpad and how it was just like a point system and then you use lines to connect them. Then there's like I think a big boom in like the 1980s when Autodesk created AutoCAD. And that was all 2D software in order to create stuff. And then as that went on, like Rhino was invented around the 1980s, but it was definitely in its infancy. And as you move up, you get SolidWorks, which is one of the first 3D softwares. And then Revit comes along in the 2000s. And then in the future, you can kind of see that we're looking into like VR and a lot of 3D solutions where you get to be in the space um, that you're designing in. So some of the case studies I looked at was the Morpheus Hotel done by Zaha Hadid. In the bottom right, you can kind of see that the facade is like looks like vacuum packed onto the building itself, and there's a lot of like unique geometries. So all of this was made in Rhino using like the parametric design and a lot of Grasshopper. So stuff like this you probably could not do in Revit. It'd be really tough. Um, and it's supposed to represent the Chinese jade carving, so you can kind of see how complex they are all throughout, even the interior and exterior of it. My second case study is the Microsoft HoloLens. So I was looking at more of like the technology and how it can be used. So it's augmented reality technology. So it places um, like things on top of already existing. So you can see on the bottom, it's like highlighted all the areas because it's geopinned with the colors so people can see what each pipe is doing, or they can see inside of walls, or in the bottom right, you can pinpoint objects. And one of the big architecture firms like looking into a lot of Microsoft HoloLens technology is Gensler. They've started to do the first couple projects where the construction managers and some of the people doing construction are wearing the headsets so they can get live feedback from the architects and live updates of big changes on the project. And some other softwares that are similar without using the HoloLens, just using like your phone or VR is Morpholio AR Sketchwalk, Archi, Shop AR, and then Memento 360. So there's a lot more budget options to do the same stuff. So for my project, I looked into just all different 3D design softwares and tried to find which software was best for what things. And so I just kind of explored like a range of like 2D and 3D softwares. So the first one I looked at, which everyone knows, is AutoCAD. It's all in 2D. It has like a very basic user interface. There's a 3D option to AutoCAD, but you still have to draw each face. It doesn't automatically move from one face to the other. Some of the things I said that AutoCAD was best at was just detail drawing. So once you export something from Revit, putting it into AutoCAD and adding a lot more detail, and then you can easily move it to Illustrator or other 2D softwares. So it does move really easily between all the other 3D softwares. But some of the downsides is it has some limited file formats and no parametric abilities. And it doesn't do work sharing as well as some of the other ones. Um, a little bit newer in all 3D is Revit and or Rhino. So Rhino has a lot of 3D aspects to it, a lot of parametric abilities when using Grasshopper. So you can create really complex shapes and curves. It also does allow for like much easier curves, unlike Revit, which is a little more blocky style building. With Rhino, there's basically unlimited plugins that you can use for it. So food for Rhino, you can get energy modeling, you can get ones that help you create unique shapes. So I explored a couple of those. I used a plugin to make this video of just like a basic wood joint. And then along with that, it does have some like basic rendering abilities. So this video was all made inside of Rhino, so like animating it and everything. And then Revit, as everyone most likely knows, basically very similar, but you build a little bit differently. It's a lot more of like puzzle pieces that you get to put together rather than you having to create the actual puzzle pieces. So like walls and wall assemblies are already created. And then it also does have more rendering, or also does have rendering abilities, and they each do have energy modeling plugins. but Rhino has a lot more options. Gravity Sketch, I think, is like something that's very new. It's 3D, as you can see. You can use like the VR over here. And I think this video on the top right shows it best, where you can kind of use things, move around, pull them, push them. It does import and export to Rhino, so you can make like a concept idea and move it between one or the other, edit it, and you basically get to hold the model inside of your hands, like you can see in the bottom left. And it has multiple people working on it all at once. So, and you can make it to scale. So I did just take a minute and use Gravity Sketch just to make some basic stuff. So here's this video. You can kind of see there's lots of different shapes you can make. You can use all different colors. Um, right now it's at a very large size, so I did have to like go through and scale it down to something that I could see all at once. But I would say this is definitely best for not final products by any means, but just really quick prototyping where you can throw it up in your hands, move it around, kind of see inside of it, and then change it as you go. And then you could go into CAD or Rhino or Revit, something like that, and then make it a final product. Some of the only downsides about like VR and AR stuff is you might make you a little nauseous because you're not in the usual environment you're in. So you do have to take things kind of slow. And then now right here, I'm going to try to draw like a wooden joint for uh, just as like what we've been doing in studio is a lot of mass timber. So this is doing that. And it's kind of hard to like maneuver around. It takes a lot of getting used to, but you can kind of like move it as you wish. And then right now I have like the whole thing linked. So all the stuff in the background's also moving. But there's a variety of colors and like different shapes that you can use to extrude into it. Lastly, here's what some of the things I learned were kind of the intended and unintended uses of programs. So using pieces of Rhino, then placing them inside of Revit to get more complex shapes, or using Revit's Dynamo, which is a lot harder to use. And like knowing when to use CAD, when not to use CAD. I think some of the things is like workflow, figuring out what works best when just to create the fastest and most effective project. And then some of the things I think in the future is digital twins, which will be big for augmented reality and Microsoft HoloLens. So you can see here, there's like small outlines of where the bricks should go. So you could use unskilled laborers to just place the blocks where they need to be. So it tells them everything. If there's ever any updates in any patterns or anything like that, it'll just live sync right to their headsets. And then if you're a maintenance man, you can put on your Microsoft HoloLens headset, walk around the building, and there'll be sensors around the building, and you'll know exactly where and what's broken just by looking through the walls. So that's what a digital twin is. And then using VR technology, a lot more like collaborative working where you could see the model, pull it up. You can see on the bottom right over here, people are drawing where they see sun angles, where the wind needs to go, things that they need to fix. So it's basically the same as building like a physical model, but in a digital media. So that's my project. Thank you.